Hey everybody, Christine Morel here. In this episode, I interviewed Stephanie Marcell. She's an incredible artist who got her music on Fox, the major network Fox, without spending any money, without having this huge fan base, and without even professionally recorded music. I think you're definitely going to be inspired by this one if you're an artist looking to promote your music and also someone who wants to change the world with your music. All right, let's go. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
First, I want to talk to you about yourself. Tell me, you have a incredible story and an incredible album, and I was just so impressed by you. What is it that you recently released? And tell me a little bit about your story behind your recent album.
So, I just released Human, and it's my debut album. And I chose to release it one song a month instead of presenting it to the world all at once. And it's based on it's me telling my story of being a sexual assault survivor and how that experience affected every area of my life, but also how I've healed in every area that it's affected me in. And with the project, I'm using music to explain the fact that a survivor is never just what happened to them. They're also this whole person with all of these different experiences that they had before and after that happened. So by presenting my story with all of these different songs, I'm trying to explain how people are human no matter what happened to them and what their experiences are.
What I thought was really creative and beautiful about your project was the concept behind how you named each song a body part. And when you first said that, I was like, I wonder why she did that. Can you explain that?
hmm I decided to represent every area that a survivor has to heal in with a body part. So with my releases that I've released so far, my latest release was Guts, and it's where you're talking about like how you pursue your career and your dreams. And I know with my experience when I was sexually assaulted, it happened in college, and so I was in the process of trying to earn my degree and study what I wanted to do in my life, which was run a business and be a musician. And so I had to, in the midst of also just dealing with the things that you normally would have to deal with, trying to follow your dreams and build your career, I also had to deal with the sexual assault and like how that was affecting my ability to do those things or the rate that I was being able to do those things and grow. So for using that example, that's an area of life that you wouldn't think would be affected by a sexual assault, but it still is. And so, with every single song naming it after a body part, it's naming a different area of life that people wouldn't think that would affect, but it does affect. And how by healing in all of those different areas, you heal each part of yourself, like your hands, your legs, your heart, and your mind. And then by the time that you've healed in all those different areas, you've gotten to know who you are as a person after experiencing that in the past.
I thought that was so touching. And when I watched your interview, I think I was telling you earlier, I had goosebumps like everywhere. I almost cried. I was like, wow, it was just so powerful. And not only that, I think when someone goes through something really traumatic, it's hard to even talk about, let alone
Yeah.
share with the world, and let alone write songs about it and be, transparent about what's happening, because it's just hard and it's so hurtful. How long after the sexual assault, and how did it come about that you said, you know what, I'm going to create an album about this? And was it more for your own healing, or was it, hey, I want to help other people heal? Like, how did that even, because you seem so young. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 27.
27.
People
Okay.
think that I'm way younger though. There are people who think that I'm in high school. So I kind of roll with that. Like,
Yeah.
sure, whatever you want to
You
think.
look so young, but I mean, I feel like the strength that you have, and 27 is still very young. The strength that you have and the power that you have is just, again, it's just very inspiring. But yeah, how long did it take before you were able to really share it? I mean, was it something that you could do right away, or did you have to do a lot of healing before you could start writing about it?
Um, well, right away, I it was like almost immediate that I was in the reporting process. So I was sharing my story, but it wasn't like me posting about it online or anything. It was more so like the police have this question, the school has that question. And so, like, trying to go through the storm of that, it was like a tornado or a hurricane, just like a crazy change out of nowhere of my life and like the trajectory of everything. And going through all of that is a very intense process. So I was like thinking to myself and even telling my mom that I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to talk about it publicly. I wasn't sure if I wanted people to know about that more than they were already kind of knowing because it was kind of spreading around circles at school what happened. And I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with that at a larger um, capacity. But as I was going through the process and I was hearing more stories come back to me as people were learning about what happened and they were sharing their experiences with me, and I was seeing how there are other cases at my school that weren't the way that I believe weren't justly handled as I believe they should have been. I started being like, well, if I talk about what happened to me, that might help other people. And so as I was getting further and further along with the reporting and the legal stuff and everything, I was getting stronger and stronger through therapy of being able to like start saying what happened to me and start like little by little giving like examples of from my story of things that could help other people. And it took several years. I believe like I wasn't fully sharing it until like my second to last year of undergrad, and that's how long it took to like actually share that I had this website my mom and I created, the stopsexualassault.org website, and actually like write out my story instead of just having the information that we had acquired there and just saying the statement that I was sexually assaulted. And so that took a while to get to. And then the year after that, I was able to start like putting things in place to make the album and started thinking like, wow, I could put my story into music and that would really help people and really be something that would grab people's attention. Because with telling a sexual assault story, like people like listening to you, it's really hard to listen to. So I understand when people are like, oh, I really would rather not like have that conversation or listen to you tell your story about that. But when you put things into music, people are like, oh, we really like this song, or like, oh, I really relate to this. And then when I tell them my story behind it, they're like, oh, I didn't know that that was what the song was about or what the song was relating to. So I started putting things in place to do that. And I was able to perform some of the songs and like start doing more and more things publicly when it came to music and when it came to speaking, like public speaking about my story. But it wasn't until last year with COVID that things finally came together and I was able to actually start completing the ideas and like restructuring them and rewriting them to actually get it to a point where I was like, oh, this is actually ready for me to put out into the public and release. So all of that, that whole time span, it was like 7, 8 years. It took a long, long time to get there.
Yeah. I think it's, one thing that I talk about with a lot of different artists is just the power of music and the power of how it can heal and inspire and just create such a healing energy that I don't really think anything else has the power to do. But a lot of artists are very scared to talk about the things that they've been through, and like you said, sexual assault, it is hard to talk about, and it is hard. Some people don't want to listen to it right away. They get really uncomfortable. For you to be able to do that, I mean, the process of you getting comfortable to be able to share your story, was that something that I know you talk about your mom really encouraging you? Was that something that you had said that you wanted to do, or was it, kind of having that support system where your mom or family members said, how about, what if you talked about it in your music? How did that come about for you to feel, I guess, brave enough, courageous enough to do it? Because that's scary. It's a really scary thing to put yourself out there like that. So how did that come about?
It was my mother and my family. They, like, from the moment that I told them, because after I reported it to my school, I called my mom and told her what happened. And she was immediately like, "Oh, you need to call the police and you need to do this," because the school hadn't done that. And so, like, my mom was the one who was encouraging me, and she was telling me throughout that day and then the rest of the process, like, "I want you to do what's best for you to do, what you want to do. But here are the reasons why I think that you should report and why I think that you should go through with the testifying in court." And then as I was like working on my music, my mom was like, "I think this would be very healing for you to do for yourself." And I took that and I just kept rolling with it throughout college of using studying music and the performances we had to give in class and stuff. I just continually used it to try to help myself and write out what I was feeling. And then I started, because of her and my family encouraging me to tell my story, just in general, I started thinking, well, why don't I tell my story in the midst of my music and take what I'm using for myself with music to heal myself to be something that I used to heal other people. And so it was a mixture of my mom and my family encouraging me to speak out, and then me seeing how music that they were encouraging me to make for myself could actually help other people too.
That's so incredible. Um, as I told you I actually watched your interview when you were on Fox and you talked about this, and they, even shared some photos of you performing and a lot of the stuff that we talked about right now, which was um, just really incredible. Um, as they shared their story, and as a lot of musicians that are watching right now, because I've talked to a lot of people about kind of doing the same thing that you've done, and also in my life, because I've done a lot of similar things where telling my story, and which is why I'm so passionate about it, and talking to artists about sharing their story and how powerful it can be. But a lot of people watching, a lot of the questions that I get from artists, when I talk to them about, hey, you can expose your music to all of these people, you can get on media and you can get on newspapers and radio. Some of them feel guilty about using their story. Some of them feel like, I feel like, I remember there was a gentleman that said, I feel guilty about using my mother's death. She had committed suicide and he felt like he was using her to get, attention. But something that I have always talked about with artists is about what their intention is, right? What's your intention behind doing something? Because if your intention is, to use something so tragic to, go out there and just get attention, well, then yes, you're going to feel bad. But as I've talked to many artists and asked, well, what's your true intention? So many artists really just want to help, really just want to go out there and inspire people, make people feel like they can heal, or make people feel brave enough to talk about it, or maybe even just heal internally, maybe not even talk about it. Was that something, again, and we'll get into the process on how you got on, interviewed and that sort of thing, but was that hard for you also as an artist going, hey, am I doing this, do I feel good about this? Am I, is this the right thing that I should do? Did that cross your mind?
It did. And I guess something that was helpful for me with my situation is that with sexual assault survivors in general, when you share your story, people tend to be like, "Oh, she's just saying that for attention," or "Oh, she's just like being dramatic," and it just comes like even without being a musician, just people having a lot to say about you, talking about something that people would rather you stay quiet about or don't believe you about. And so, having experienced that in my own ways throughout the years, it had, when it came across my mind, like, oh, people will think that I'm just using this to further my career and people will think I'm just trying to get attention. I was like, well, people have already thought like crazy things about me anyway. So I'll just like let them continue to talk. I know why I'm doing this. And so I just constantly tell myself, like, this is why I'm doing this. I have a set of affirmations I say to myself every morning to just get my mind in the zone because of the thoughts that'll come in my head of like, oh, you're not good enough, or oh, you're just trying to get attention, or oh, whatever. And of course, like other people having things to say, like every now and then that come across my life. And one of the affirmations is I share my story to stand up for myself and others. And so that's what I keep in my mind whenever those thoughts come or opinions come. that this is why I'm doing it and this is from my heart why I'm doing it. And so no one can tell me otherwise and me actually believe them.
Yeah, I love that. I really, really love that. I'm going to have to write that in the description of everyone watching because I feel like that's something, those affirmations, reminding yourself what's your intention. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks because there's going to be people that just think whatever they're going to think no matter what. It doesn't matter. There's no convincing them. There's nothing that you can do. And there's always going to be those types of people that don't support. But the most important people that you're trying to reach are the people that hear you and that are possibly going through something similar or going through their own tragic, experiences, and then being able to heal because you're sharing your story. So I think it's great. I think it's really, really awesome what you've done and how you continue to encourage yourself every day because it's not something that you can just wake up every day and feel comfortable with. I know it's got to be hard every day
Mm,
to do. So I think what you're doing is wonderful. And I love that you had mentioned that so many other people are also coming to you and sharing their story with you. And they probably, again, feel like they can do it because you've done it. And they may have never even talked to anybody about it. And that's pretty amazing what you're, creating in them. So moving into the space where, you decided to start sharing it, publicly. And I know we talked a little earlier and you had said that you bought one of my books of contacts. How did you learn and how did we get connected? How did you learn about how to then go take your story and then start to contact media outlets?
well, I saw an Instagram ad of it while I was getting the music together to start being in the position where I could release it this year. I saw the Instagram ad last year, and I was
That
like,
was for
well,
the book of the media contacts
mhm.
for that one. Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, well, that would be really helpful because I was thinking to myself, I have no idea how to actually get people to hear this. And so I was like, well, if I have that list of contacts and I can like actually have the contact information for these different outlets that could send my music out or send my story out, then that would be really helpful to get survivors and people who would really benefit from the music to actually know that it exists. And so I bought the booklet once I was ready to start actually working on it. And that's how I started to learn about how I could put my story into a format that press would be um, more receptive to, and how I could format everything to be something that they would be interested in putting on their platform, something that they would see could fit there instead of just like writing out my story and then them trying to figure out how it might be able to fit on their TV show or in their magazine and them being like, well, I'll just move on to something else because this is too complicated. So that's really helped me with outlining how I wanted to approach them and trying to figure out who to approach and when and like mapping out a plan for contacting the different outlets and like asking them to share the music and get everything out there.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know you had mentioned that I had included like some videos of how I got myself on, some of these major networks and that sort of thing. So I kind of had it written out and explained on the process on how to do it. But when I talk to artists who have taken my trainings and then actually applied them, each of them kind of went about it a different way, which I find really interesting. So exactly what did you do? What did you put together when you said, okay, I need to put together a presentable format for me to send to a TV network? What did you do? Did you write the press release? Did you make a video? Did you create a website? How did you go about creating the presentation before you reached out to people? Because a lot of people that are watching right now, artists, if you're watching right now, some of you have some inspiring, incredible things to share, but don't know how to send it to people, or you send it prematurely before it's really ready to be sent, or maybe you're just sending an email, hey, check out my music, or that sort of thing, which isn't going to get you very far. But Stephanie, I know you said you created something really presentable and you put some time into creating something. What did you put together exactly before you contacted the media outlets?
Well, with my songs, I have one song for each month this year. And so each song has a different style, borrows from a different genre. And each song, like we talked about, has like a different area that it covers. And so I was looking at the list of contacts and then also thinking of like what other contacts I know of and seeing based on what you have put together, how I could go and find some other contacts that I could put together in a similar way. And I started listing who I wanted to reach out at what time based on what song I was going to release. And so this first song that I released, I live in New Orleans, and so it was, and Mardi Gras was about to happen, Carnival season here was about to happen, and my song was borrowing from the genre of New Orleans music. And so I decided that I wanted to focus only on reaching out to New Orleans local press outlets instead of trying to go out to the national ones or to other local ones yet. And so I put together this press release, and I had, before I started like individualizing the press releases, I had just a general format for myself of what I was going to say in each one. And so one of the things that I wanted to make sure I had clear right away was explaining what kind of music it was. Because if you listen to my music, it's not commercial, it's not polished. And the reason for that is that I did everything myself in my room based on like COVID happening and just a lot of barriers to actually getting into a studio and working with someone who could like help me put it together. And so I wanted to establish right away, like due to COVID, I made this myself. It's a DIY project. And so put it in a way where they wouldn't think like, oh, this is just like somebody just threw this together, and they could actually see like, oh no, wait, there's a reason why it's like this,
Right.
that's strategic. And then I started thinking of the story behind each song. So for the first one that I released, it was about feeling safe and like how survivors have a difficult time feeling safe. And so the lyrics are about being at a Mardi Gras parade or like a carnival type of party and having a hard time being around people because of not feeling safe. And so I put that story into the press release, and I put at the top that like a local musician was releasing music to raise awareness about sexual assault. And then in the email, after like explaining what type of project it was, the type of music, sharing what the story of the song was behind it. And I had just a paragraph for each topic that I was talking about. So the first one was introducing the whole project, and then the second one was specific to what the song was and giving the genre and the story behind the lyrics. And then the bottom paragraph was about the website that the song was going to be on, the stopsexualassault.org site my mom and I have, and what that site offers for people, the information and resources it offers, and then just my contacts and links for them to listen to the song. So I tried to keep it clear and concise and organized, and address like just like different things to try to help them think of how it could fit into their what they had going on.
How did you and by the way, that's so smart. I want to bring that up for anybody that's watching. I meet a lot of people that go, I reached out to 500 media outlets, and then let's say they're in the hip hop genre, for example. But then I go, wait, well, did you do your research on, where they were? And then they go, well, no. And then I'll take a look, and, they're reaching out to like a Swedish country blog. And I'm like, well, that's why they didn't include your music, like it didn't fit. But what you did is you did a lot of research. And not only that, was because of the style of music. You said it was New Orleans music. You also reached out to New Orleans outlets, which makes sense. That's going to have a bigger impact, and they're going to be more interested than if you reached out to, Canadian outlets, and it doesn't mean to say that Canadian outlets wouldn't be interested in covering your story, but it makes more sense because it's relevant to, their local news, and that's who you're reaching out to. So that was fantastic that you did that. So that was really smart. But how did you also find those contacts? Did you do a lot of your own research as well, besides what was in the media book that you got?
I did a little research. A thing that's easy for me is I've been living here for a while, and I went to college here. And my program was specifically for popular and commercial music with music business. So we were already aware of different media outlets that were here for music. And so I already knew like Offbeat magazine is the biggest music magazine here. And so I already knew that they would be a good place to send my music. And then looking at other music blogs, I just like did a general Google search and I saw this music blog called My Spilt Milk. And I was reading and I was like, oh, this would be a great place to send my music to. And so I focused on those two media outlets as far as music, and then I also sent it to general ones like the TV shows here and the newspaper here, to try to see if they would want to cover it, just even in a general sense with this website and stuff, if they wanted to share it with their readers and viewers. So I focused on those outlets to try to see like who would be interested. And I'm very gratefully like Offbeat and My Spilt Milk decided like, oh, we really want to share this and we really want to share the music. So those were my first two interviews that I got from doing that.
What I also would love to bring up too is the fact that you submitted your music, like you said, it wasn't perfect, like it was you recording it in your room. So many artists are so scared. Again, that fear, like I'm not good enough, the music's not good enough, I didn't have tens of thousands of dollars to pay a big producer, and to think that everything has to be so perfect or sound like what's on the radio. Again, this is such a great testament to how powerful when you have something that people, they wanted to support you because of the cause that you were doing, and you obviously make great music as well, but you had such an incredibly inspiring story behind it, and you weren't afraid to put your music out there, and even though it wasn't perfect, you let them know this is why it's not perfect, I'm doing this on my own. So I think that transparency, all of everything, it's never like one thing that an artist does that gets them attention. It's always like the sum of so many things. And so you had so many really great elements that you put together, you know, and adding your intention behind it just multiplies it so much more, which I think was just so smart of you to do. And again, it's going to
Thank
reach
you.
more people because of that. So when you decided to contact them, how did you contact them? Did you email them? Did you find them on social media? Did you reach out to them and say, hey, I have something to send you on Instagram? Or, you know, how did you get them to even take notice of you? Because they're getting lots of, you know, people emailing them. What did you do to stand out?
I sent them an email and I had gone to their websites and I was trying to see who would be the best person to email. And so for websites like My Spilt Milk, and only had one email that I could find, and it was the man who's in charge of the entire website. So I sent it to him and I just put like local musician is releasing a sexual assault awareness album and just tried to keep the headline something that would be different. And I felt like that was different enough. So I did that with that website, and then with Offbeat magazine, they had several emails, and I just picked the ones that seemed to be the appropriate ones to send releases to, and just did the same thing and explained it to them what I was presenting, what I was starting, and that I would love if they covered it. And then for the news stations and the newspapers, I did the same thing. I tried to tailor it based on who I was sending it to and what their audience and was like, trying to get it to be not just a generic thing. But I just sent an email and just like made sure the headline was eye catching so it wouldn't just blend in with all of the other emails they were getting.
Right. That's very smart. So in the headline of the email, you had something really short. You didn't just put, you know, hi, check out my music. You put something that would make them, you know, right away a news station is going to want to share. And as we talk about news stuff, especially, the news always wants to post, especially local stuff. They want to post things that are you know, inspiring, or something that's, you know, about healing, or something that, you know, families are going to really be drawn to, because there's families that are watching this. So any family is going to be, you chose the right outlets to reach out to because you're wanting to talk to families. Like this is the fact that your mom had such a big impact on you. You know, as I was watching yours, I'm thinking the same thing because I'm a mom. And I think about, what if my child has to go through this? So watching you go through that, I'm taking notes in my mind. I'm thinking, man, I what a wonderful mother you have. And I hope I can be that kind of mother. So I was really interested as a mom. There's many other people that are going to be interested in your story as a victim or as a student or as a possible, as a female, maybe not even having experienced that. But you picked just a really great means to reach out to people because they're the media, like Fox Network or any local media outlet is going to be interested in sharing that because of all of those reasons that I just mentioned. Now, did they respond to you right away or did you have to like follow up? Did you kind of reach out to them multiple ways or how did you finally get a response from them?
I Well, I didn't follow up during the first month because I was still trying to get a sense of how things work. So I didn't take that extra step with that song. I did with future ones. But with Offbeat Magazine and My Spilled Milk, they took a week to respond to me. So I wasn't sure if they were going to pick it up or not. And then after that week, they emailed me and they requested an interview and said like, oh, we would love to share this. So it took about a week to hear from them.
And then with Fox Network, you said you had to reach out to them a couple times, like in a few different ways, or how did that work?
For Fox, since it was in Vegas, I chose to not reach out to them until May because over this summer, my releases are focused on my childhood and my father, who I grew up in Vegas, and so he was a musician, and was always music in our house, and that's how I got into music. So because of the releases coming up, I was like, oh, well, this would be a nice time to reach out to them to see if they'll want to cover my story. And I was also having to go out to Vegas. So I was like, oh, it would be really nice if when I have to go out there, if I could actually be on the news while I'm out there. So that's when I decided to reach out to them instead of reaching out to them earlier. And with them, I didn't hear anything for like, or just at all. I didn't hear anything. But because I had sent it a month in advance from when I was going to be out in the city, I was able to follow up with them after waiting for 2 weeks. I was trying to give them time in case they got really busy. But after I reached out with a follow up, I immediately heard from Fox and they were like, oh, we like, let's get this, like, let's get this scheduled for you. We would love to have you here.
Wow.
So with them, it was much quicker after I sent the follow up.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really smart. So you sent it a month in advance. You gave them time to take a look at it, and then you followed up. Honestly, Stephanie, like the more that I talk to you, I'm just really so impressed by you. You've done so
Thank
much
you.
from just the meaning of the album, from your intention behind it, from all of that. None of that would be getting attention. Your message wouldn't be getting attention if you then also didn't, learn and educate yourself on how to then take your message and get it out to the world. So you've really done an incredible job.
Thank you.
You've done a really, really good job. So thank you. I want to, before we go, I want anyone that's watching to be able to look you up. And so I would love for you to share your links, and we'll definitely include these on the interview as well. I'll put all your social media and where they can find out more about you. But please share where they can find out more about your music and more about your cause.
So my cause and my music are all on stopsexualassault.org, which I started with my mom while I was in college. And on the website, you'll see a music tab, and that has all of the music from the album that's been released so far. And there are a lot more songs coming to end out the year. So you can go there to hear what I've released so far. And we have some more songs that are coming up that we're really, really excited about this month. So you'll get to hear everything that's coming through and see like how everything's connected to the story of the project. And then also with my music, I'm on social media at Music by Marcell, and on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, everything is at Music by Marcell everywhere. And I'm most active on Instagram, and there I post covers and different things that add to what I'm releasing on stopsexualassault.org. And also the music that's on the website is available on Spotify and everywhere else too, if you want to save it to your library or listen to it elsewhere.
Awesome. I'm going to include all of those links in the description for anybody that's watching, excuse me, that would like to check out her music, read more about her cause, and see any of her upcoming releases. Excuse me, guys, sorry. And then for any artists that would like, some more help with how to also learn the process that she learned on how to get her message out there and her music out there, I'll include links down below as well. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope that you continue to do this. I think you're going to make a huge difference in people's lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.